exciting and inspiring episode of On Location with Zara, produced with the support of TELUS STORYHIVE. Today we're here in the heart of Milan on West Broadway at the beautiful vegan restaurant, Folke restaurant. And joining me is a very special guest who I'm so grateful was able to join us today because her life is truly busy. So I'm quite amazed that she was able to make time for us. Has been on CBC. She's a professor of journalism at UBC. She has given talks that I can just listen to over and over again on YouTube. She has a podcast. She's an author. She also has a new book coming out. And someone I found while researching a very important topic that we'll be discussing further on in our conversation about the importance of diversity in media. I'm talking about none other than Minelle Mahtani. Minelle, thank you so much for joining us. I may say I told you this over the phone too. I was just a little bit nervous having you here. Julian, my camera op, knows. He's like, all through the day you've just been so calm, and I'm like, I don't know, can I eat? I'm like, everything has to be perfect. I'm just so excited to have you here, and you're just like, come over here, give me a hug.
I'm so honored that you even think about me for this. You've been a great guest that you have on the show, so I feel really honored that you feel that way, and I'm so excited to see that.
I am truly excited. The way you came here, I was Googling the importance of diversity by pop stories and by individuals sharing their own stories on a Sunday evening. And I realized that I needed to bring, because that is a topic that is very near and dear to my heart, like being an immigrant, not being born in Canada, and when I came here, working as a model, then as an actor, and never, always trying to be everything but my own ethnicity. And when one of your papers came up on Google, I thought we were singing the song that someone knew how to put into words what I was saying, but just didn't know quite how to describe it. So I really wanted to
always been interested in journalism and media since I was a little kid. When I was 7 years old, I started becoming obsessed with movies and direction, which is really weird for a 7-year-old kid. And I started going to movies with a notebook labeled director's notes. And I would take notes about the lighting and the shots and the people that were in the movies. And I'd say to my mom, why are there so few people of color? We didn't have that term back then, but why are there people like me in the movies? Like, why don't I see that? And she's like, well, that's the way but I got a lot of them. So it was always interesting about that experience, that kind of having that racism in the past. Although I want to be clear, as a light-skinned person of color, as nowhere near as bad as a Canadian person who identifies as black or as indigenous as well. So, but having all those experiences, coupled with the fact that I never saw anybody who looked like me on screen, made me think something needs to change. So I pursued both an academic path to think about those questions and then also a journalistic path, fortunately, at the CBC, who were lucky enough, they decided to hire me.
That's truly amazing. And something, I love the fact that in your bio it says that your mom shared a story about you being an observant child. The fact that you're 7 years old and noticing that, I don't think that consciously I realized it. It's only looking back now that I realized from the Barbies, the movies that I was watching constantly as a child, who was considered pretty or beautiful, or when I would watch shows like that I love, Full House and all those shows, there was no one who looked like me. So subconsciously we internalized that someone who looks like me, or they can only be seen as a cab driver and then later on in
this book inside and out. And the fact that you have experienced that on any level is just really difficult for me to hear. So I'm so glad that you do the work right now, because you're amplifying the story to so many people of color in ways that we need to see in different forms and situated to be able to observe the ways in which the country works in very complex ways. So, you know, is it me that at 7 had any special abilities? Not really. I think it's very awareness. You're possibly doing something where you might figure out a place for yourself in the world. So I think that experience of being observation and more about understanding what it is to be inside.
And I wonder if you have questions about your name. Do people ask you Minelle, is that your real name? But I get asked that a lot. Is that really your real name?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was about to bring co-op yesterday buying a tent, you know, and the person there said, oh, it must be Michelle. I'm like, no, it's Minelle. And, you know, these are the things, these little slice, you know, Shashiva, beautiful writer, says it's like 1,000 cuts over those kinds of experience. And I feel like that's what it is, like 1,000 cuts every day dealing with the ways in which we experience these kinds of implicit as well as more outward forms of racism.
And the beautiful thing is that we're actually talking about this now, because I feel for some time I wouldn't really speak, because I mean, conscious even on that was a real life. And there's still times that I will hear the people in the street who are obviously Caucasian coaches who are, oh, there's no racism and there's no none of this, of course the Barack president, and they just don't know, because obviously you have the compassion for the empathy. So how was it for you, you know, working with the CBC, which was a very interesting story, I believe. I don't think we were speaking about it over the phone, or was it in an interview that I heard that you just happened to meet someone who was a producer in London, and then the guy was like, I'm with the CBC, and he was just the head of national news or something.
Very close, yeah. I mean, a lot of us fall into these lines that we're being serendipitous encounters.
This is the path you are meant to be on. I'm sure people come up to you all the time in terms of asking for advice, you know, what path they should go on, and they want to be really good. They want to tell stories, whether local community stories or conversations like this. For someone who may be watching right now who just wants to share their local stories, who's a person of color, what advice would you give to them?
Listen, I was thinking the other day about this, you know, usually 3 years ago I would have said, take the traditional path, go to journalism school, you know, try to break into one of these legacy media corporations, but we also know that legacy media is crumbling, right? The opportunities due to ongoing forms of neoliberalism and thinking about the ways in which oppression works. I would say that people just need to reach out and stories and have the things that you can actually reach millions of people through social media, through posts on Instagram, with the stories. I think that's the way to do it now. Think about how you want to reach the audiences you want to hear.
Earlier you were referencing, and thank you so much for your openness and honesty about, you know, the amount of slurs and comments that you received, whether you were working or in school. What people,
doing. But it's also about respecting the stories of our ancestors and recognizing that parents gave up everything to come to this country. My dad is Indian and my mother was Iranian. And thinking about that experience for them, I mean, that sacrifice, in some ways I felt like I didn't want to leave, obviously. But also I just felt, what are the legacies that they leave behind for us? And how can I honor the legacies of all my ancestors and the stories that I share? And also, I have responsibility to the racial students. So I owe it to them to think about how I can create a space where they can speak their story.
That's really beautiful. I believe it was in one of the videos that I found online.
You really did your research, girl.
It's just a little bit, seeing what's out there about you on YouTube, and I feel like, even your last name, Mahtani, my last name, of course, like the way you would say it authentically, I could just thought out that I don't say like that matter who you are, but I saw a little bit of myself in you, and then of course we'll talk like that, looking a little bit, opening some pages, and being like, oh wow, this is truly amazing. I go back over here because I was really trying to find someone who was an expert, whose brain I could really pick on this topic, that some of the thoughts and feelings that I had and not expressed, and why had I not? And finally, we're having these conversations, post-COVID, George Floyd world, that, all this internalized oppression, and that finally we do get to have a voice, but it's something that we have to work, but perhaps in a big setting, not too much. Yes, to check a box. I'm grateful that we are getting that right now, that I get this platform, we get this funding, but I do get the sense that sometimes it can be a thing. This is that we're welcoming as people. But it's also the emotional part that I guess part of me is like I'm 41, turning 42 soon, that for so long I was disconnected from these feelings that I didn't allow myself and give myself permission to feel, because I thought I had to be the same as my peers who had more opportunities, and secondly, they were Caucasian. So it's like hit the ground running, that there's no room to breathe, like you have to be like them. And no one talk for a second to be like, hey, how is this landing for you? What's happening in the world or the news? So the fact that you've been in this profession for much longer than I have, had to bear all these things, and now you get to work with people. So I feel very grateful to have you on here. So I just want to talk a bit about how we can voice these members around the scene. It's wonderful to see on CBC we have these amazing hosts. There's Asian, but looking back in your day, it's very like 10 or 15 years ago. Diversity and inclusion. And for me, that's extremely problematic because I see people like you in journalism and there's fewer opportunities. So what do we do about that? If we take an individual stance, I fear that we will not get anywhere. We have to work as collectives and think about how we're going to make change as a group when we think about the ways of oppression work. So what are the organizations we can join? How do we take a stand against these forms of racialized oppression? I think that's what we need to do. And that's something that you talk about in the past when you're working with students. So what are can you tell me about some of the work that you're doing in the past and what you're learning, but And I was like, I don't know how do I do it? But it's like that I've had to. I've independently funded or like making no money at all. But it's like just going ahead, keep going, making content, because otherwise I was like beer girl number 2 or hot girl number 3, or just always these kinds of roles which I had to turn down. And I feel like little by little there are more roles for women who look like me and who are younger, and when I see them, my heart just explodes. Like I can see allegiances and police procedural drama that came out, and the star came to my home where we filmed, and we were both just crying because what a moment it was that the number one is a celebration. Toronto, Scarborough, and then you moved to University of British Columbia. What are you most excited about the role you're in at the moment?
Oh, well, right now I'm head of Canadian Studies, which is such a great place to be. I mean, what it does, it helps us shift up how does we understand what it means to be a Canadian. And of course, 20 years ago, there was very few ways to understand kind of Russian, kind of old school kind of Canadian.
Bad.
But of course, that's changed dramatically as well as here. So when I think about what it means to consider Canadian Studies, it's really exciting to be challenge ongoing forms of depression, relation. What does it mean to be in relationality? Again, informed by extraordinary knowledge of Indigenous peoples who have really offered us such rich opportunities to think about what it means to be in relationality with one another. This relationship, revolution, how might we think about what a revolution is? A person with large-scale way of understanding revolution, but also just private revolution. So this show is a private revolution every day in terms of what we offer. Help us think about our stories and how they matter, and then we're together. I don't even know what we're looking at to ask, but the entire course is about asking questions to make a difference.
Those sound like amazing courses. This may sound completely odd. Can someone just electively come and take one of these courses?
You know, it's. I think sometimes. I think if you're retired, you're in Vancouver. There is a program you can also sit on classes. But otherwise, it might be a little complicated.
Yes, then you have to go.
Let me see what we can do.
Sounds good. Can you share some insights on your book on critical race theory and cultural coordinating?
Wow, that's a big question.
You need to take it.
About 20 years ago. But when I started thinking about the work I wanted to do with my PhD, I was like, I'm mixed, but there's all this stuff for me. What about people like me doing minority mixes? I didn't see it a lot. Because I was thinking about that. I think about one of the stories of people that do minority mixes like myself. And I was looking and their stories really inform the development of cultures, race, and Asia. Lots of findings came out of that, but I think some of the more pertinent ones were which race people can see themselves in media, in different forms of film, print, radio. They wanted to see themselves represented more accurately. But one of the things that they were really interested in was thinking about how they relate history and popular perceptions of the identity. Was either one of two things. One is that they were torn completely about their racial identity and no place to call home. That, oh my God, these poor children are so messed up. Or else solution for the world's racial problems, like the Barack Obama kind of idea that we live in a post-racial world now, and no more racial problems exist simply because we're seeing so many more multiracial people. And of course, both of these are stereotypes. Both of these are the words that Grace are now. They're being bugged by a metaphor, right? But these are just metaphors that don't really help us understand the complexities of our identities. So I started to think, is there another way to understand the complex diasporic histories of mixed race people? And one of the things I thought about a little bit more was when we forget those diasporic histories, like our families have traveled all around the world to get to where they are today. I mean, I've been to Romania, but where they traveled to. Particularly here he talks about it as being traveling with a third and final class. My family went from India, Pakistan, Burma, Lahore, all these
This
places.
is your parents?
My extended families, right? And then they went to London, and then they came to Canada. So here was the third and final continent. But don't erase those complex diasporic histories. There's a constant forgetting of this common stories. Otherwise, we see this one static representation of the future, right? The mixed race future, as if the past no longer matters. So part of what I'm trying to do now in my work is remember those histories and honor those histories. And given that both my parents have passed away, I have a lot of, I guess, poignant feelings around that, and melancholy and sadness and around that, but also recognize the importance of sharing their stories now, particularly now.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And those two words, cultural forgetting, I feel I can relate to it a lot. Being from feeling this was there in 2000, and then, with what happened a couple of years later in 2001, I really quickly wanted to forget where I was from, who I was, cutting my hair, cutting my hair, never acknowledging or saying where I'm from, and people would just assume I'm from various parts of the world, like my natural history, America, or somewhere else. So I would just take on those characteristics, and being a performer, sort of become a shapeshifter / chameleon, and not truly wanting to own my heritage. And then it's taken me this many years, to be honest. Doing this show and another show I did last year has given me some sort of place to voice this, to not just keep this inside of me. And I think you were part of the missing piece, because we haven't really had a conversation with someone who is a scholar. Subject matter, because in my brain I've heard other people talk about this, but we weren't in Vancouver. But I think we were meant to cross paths, just like how you met the gentleman in London, and I was meant to find you and have these conversations.
But you see, as I say, some little girl is watching you right now saying, oh my God, you are the role model for her. And so by having that courage and the space to create a show like this and to invite people like me on, you've opened up a different space for the next generation. So recognize that need.
Thank you, I appreciate that. How do you see your research influencing public discourse and policy related to race and social justice?
That's a complicated question, but I'm gonna go at it. I mean, I think that piece that you read on race and media, honestly, that piece was commissioned by the federal government. They didn't think that they said the allegation that minority groups, and that's a term we use at the time, it's not how I would use it, because we're always about the minority, because that really means they're not understanding more how it is we thought about race, journalism, minority identities, so they asked me to talk about how this big study, and so I tried to look at every single study I could that had been done in the laboratory to see what the existing research was, and then I did something a little different. I called up every single person I knew who worked in media and journalism at the journalism schools, media, like communication departments in Canada. I said, what are we not doing? And around the research when it comes to thinking about representation of migrant groups in Canadian media. And that was extraordinary when I heard the stories, because they were like, we need to do so much more work in this.
And when exactly was this?
This was 2000. That was a long time ago. But I was really surprised how that paper took off. So how oh my God, this is such an important snapshot of where we are this moment. The key finding that came out of the paper is we have two schools when it comes to representation of minorities in terms of the work that we've done in the research. There's either research that talks about representation of white folks or this representation. And I think both of these are really talk about. Like, how do we think about the research that looks at the kinds of accurate representations of minority groups? And that's what a number of the journalists and the researchers who I talked to said we need to look at in more detail. So now we have this incredible body of research that has emerged in the last 15 years, looking at like, the discourses of racial domination. We have people like attorney lawyers and people like TMU doing really fascinating work, looking at the ways in which Black Canadians are represented in journalism. There's so many really extraordinary up-and-coming journalists and researchers who identify as either Indigenous or Black or create trends about representation.
On the phone and listening online, you have a great voice, and I'm excited. I hope you're going to be your upcoming book, which we'll talk about later. I hope it will draw an article as well. All I can think was she would be so great at reading audio.
Inshallah, my mom would say.
Yes, I would say inshallah.
Yeah. No, I mean they have a plan for me, so it's going to be a lot of time in the studio. But thank you. I hope everything will.
So what inspired you to start your radio show Sense of Place, and can you share a memorable moment or episode or a guest?
I love this question so much. So it was like a very potentially crazy back in 2011. I came out here on vacation. I met a guy at a coffee shop in Folke. So I gave up everything to be with this guy. But it meant giving up my job in Toronto as a professor. So I moved out here to be with my partner. And I was like, what am I going to do? I have no job. I was lucky that Toronto was holding my job for me, Toronto, but while I was here, I didn't have anything to do. And I was very fortunate that I got this opportunity to host my radio show. And honestly, I had not done any radio. I'd worked on television as a producer. And I was lucky that the owner of the radio station, a guy named Don Schaefer, said, yeah, your voice is good. Why don't we give you your own show? And I said to him, listen, I want to make it a feminist, anti-colonial show that speaks about questions about oppression. He was like, okay. So every day for 2 hours for 4 years, I had a chance to speak about these issues on a show that I called Sense of Place. And I called it Sense of Place because I'm really curious about how it is that BIPOC people create a sense of place for themselves and see a place. And instead of find a place for ourselves, rather than communities that have us believe that we're not worthy, in a world that forces us to believe, right? So it's really was a place where like your voices can be heard, thinking about how I can showcase and highlight, amplify the stories of BIPOC individuals, mostly in Vancouver, but it ended up getting even broader than that. So it's 4 years of extraordinary stories that I was very fortunate and privileged to hear. And 4 4 years and learned a lot more about how I talk a lot about interviews and how to myself speak so much. And I don't honor the story of the person speaking and how to give them the space to speak. I also learned I was a terrible interviewer, and that took a long time for me to get over. At one point, my boss said, "Look, we're going to have to cancel your show because this sucks." And you know what? It's totally okay. He was right. I had a lot to learn about how to do a great interview. And over time, I got better. To the point where we so ended and I won 4 awards for, even from the Canadian Ethnic Media Association for Best Radio Host. And it's just been a lot of fun about storytelling and the importance of sharing those stories. And I've interviews with some of the most lauded writers in the world. About some of I thought that the fact that they would bring some out their story with me, I thought was super from the world, and it really was. That's not
And I like the fact that you can see all those interviews on your website.
It's pretty cool to really go back and
Yeah.
that's just a snapshot of time, but I've learned so much from them. Sometimes I still go back to them, and sometimes I go to different classes too. Because the radio interview, in many ways, was like an emotional one-night stand, right? And you can probably relate to that too, right? It's so deep, it's so
It is.
close
I
to a
feel like,
person.
again, I
And then
feel
you
like
never see them again
Yeah.
sometimes, right?
Yeah.
That opportunity to stand with somebody and to hear their innermost thoughts, it's a big gift.
And to go on the journey with them. Because I feel especially when it's like 45 minutes plus and you're starting from the beginning, it touches you in places like, even earlier a few things you were saying, I was like, yes, this is how I feel. Or when I was listening to you on YouTube or even checking out your website, which I absolutely love your website because you can find everything there.
Shout out to Sean Cranberry, man. The person who designed my website. It's amazing.
How did you get there?
Honestly, I guess his publicist recommended me. Because I guess I had known the publicity people on his press for a while because they would recommend authors and they had seen me do interviews and they said, "Would you give me the interview?" I was very lucky.
So let's talk about your podcast, Acknowledgements, focuses on mentors behind authors. So what drew you to this concept and what have you expect from this show?
I love that you mentioned that because I started nothing in fall. So I figured that on a hiatus. I was trying to teach and, write a book and also do a podcast at the same time.
And have a person like your mom, you have a dog.
I have a dog.
Your partner, breathing, sleeping, living.
It's a lot of stuff. No, but when it reaches I love doing sense of place, but I'm really interested in this concept of radical reciprocity. So what does reciprocity look like on a radical scale? So thinking about how this interview in many ways is a reciprocal exchange of ideas, like you're learning from me and I'm learning from you. But I started thinking about the interview as like a kind of binary opposition, meaning that you're hearing the person's hearing me talk and then the person speaks back. Can I open it up to including a third person in the conversation? And I gave it some thought and I thought acknowledgements are always really fascinating in a book. It's the first place I turn to in a book because acknowledgements always tell a story, right? The story behind the story. But I thought, how do I make acknowledgements actually? So that's how the idea of acknowledgements came. So what I would do is I would call people and say, and always, without a doubt, they would let up like the Christmas tree because authors sometimes don't want to talk about their writing because they've been asked the same questions over and over again, but they are always happy to talk about who they are. I mean, if I was to ask you how someone inspires you, I'm sure you could talk on and on about that because you're always so happy to speak about the people that we love who inspires us. So I asked an author, why did you acknowledge this person in your book? And they would talk on and on about, oh my God, this person helped me write. They were so helpful to me. And then say, okay, thanks. And then we would call up that person. And it was so amazing. And then what I would do,
That's such a
don't you, it just makes so much sense. And then I would just get out of the way. And then they would talk. Because often the person who's acknowledging a book never really has had a chance to speak to the author about, well, why did you acknowledge me? And then they never had a chance to say, oh my God, I never really talked about what it meant to me to see you acknowledge me in your book. And inevitably, when I got out of the way, a different kind of conversation would emerge. And there'd be tears, there'd be laughter, and I learned so much more about the relationship between those two people than I ever could just in a one-on-one chat with the author. Because they let their guard down. They become different. They present a different side of themselves because there was some sort of nature. It's a different lesson. So I really love doing that. And I can't wait to share some of the upcoming knowledge in this episode with a picture of ABC.
Brilliant. A lot of tenderness, it sounds like. A lot of
tenderness, yeah.
Earlier today, my first guest was someone who I really look up to. She's a producer, started out as an actor, and, you know, we've been friends for a long time and almost sort of guided each other, but I really look up to her a lot. And we sat down and I could just feel the amount of passion that I felt, and then I acknowledged right away, like, one of the things that I've learned is as soon as I voice whatever's going on with me, it releases and to acknowledge how much this person means to you on camera, and it's a beautiful thing. So I want to talk about your upcoming book, and I would like to hear from you first. Obviously, I've mentioned to you there's quite a few parallels about the book. I'm not sure how much of it we can discuss, and we can talk about the title, so I leave it in your hands.
Yeah, it's such a blessing for you, so thank you for that. And of course, I will honor how much of your own story you want to share as well, right? So these are difficult questions when we speak about loss and grief and love and the stories that we share. So, yeah, I will put out October 1st. It's called May It Have a Happy Ending. It's a story about how I was gave a voice in radio when my mom was losing her sense of place in the radio show. So really, the book looks at what it means to amplify the stories of BIPOC writers, as well as the stories of ancestors. So it's a very emotional story, but one that I'm proud of. My mom helped me write this. She died 5 months ago.
Accepting my request on Instagram and LinkedIn, and you know, it was late at night. I'm looking you up, I'm like, where is this woman? I need to find her. And then when I contacted you, you wrote back right away, and when I saw and I was looking through the book, and I had to stop and be like, is this real? Is it fact or fiction? For a second, because of the parallels. And yeah, I think it's also around the same time what we went through. So talk to me about the writing process. What was it for you to share this particular story?
Yeah, well, I mean, I just want to know what it's not just the getting things like radiation for cancers, it's really debilitating. And I think all cancer is really bad, don't get me wrong, but the loss of being able to taste and eat and enjoy food, the loss of being able to speak when you're cancer, it's really, I really was not prepared for the fact that I lost my mother. My mother told me work with her and not having a chance to enjoy food and really appetizing for her. And then of course she was very shortly after she was so we have to rely on hand gestures and writing. But it's great. these things, making it really difficult and delayed. So I just started writing. I used writing as a form of therapy to think about how it could make sense of this happening. When nothing made sense. None of it was ever going to make sense again. I said, I see now that I must give what I most need. I wanted to give what I most need at that time. Because when you lose a parent, it's like your DNA is forever changed. Right? A part of your body has been cut off. And you look the same. And people can say to you, I'm so sorry. But these are such empty words. When you're just trying to get through the day without a person who's been by your side.
How do you feel about going as a press tour of such a personal matter, especially because you were very close to him? And how would that feel for you to share about, such, because even for me, it's been 7 years, but my mom was a single parent. There wasn't really much age difference between me and my mother. So she had me at 17. My mom passed away on her second birthday, and I was her primary caregiver. And I had 2 younger brothers, but we had lost my brother's wife a couple of years prior, so our family had gone through that, so they had kind of checked out a little bit emotionally. So doing all the rites of passage, organizing things in advance, and signing the papers and all of that, and not really having any family from her side here. So carrying that was, and it's in my personal view, I find it fascinating that it was up to them, because I don't think my mother really took a chance to save a lot of things that needed to be said. So at least that's what I do believe that it's psychosomatic, that we know that it's no surprise that it was, but she loved me, gave me so much confidence and believed in me so that I am who I am today. That's oral cancer, 100%.
It's so important that the stories are shared, like that we have to speak our truth, right? Otherwise, that lives in bodies in ways that's not happening.
Dr. Mahtani, I saw him at my mom with his wife Ray a few months ago in Sophie Gregoire Trio, and he talks about that how women have more autoimmune diseases compared to men because of holding all the anger inside, and yeah, especially for women of color.
Absolutely.
Who would you say have been some of your most influential mentors, and how have they shaped your career and approach to social justice?
I love this question because I really believe in I love it. All the time, and I was talking have you got? We can talk about this for ad nauseam. She's a professor at the University of now chair at but she's been in my corner every step of the way since I became a professor, and I've learned a lot from her. She's written some hugely important books about racism in Canada. One of the books, the title you'll love, it's called Looking at White People in the Eye. She's a mic drop type of book. But I've really learned a lot from her. And then I have a lot of really good friends who I consider to be mentors too. People are very young, people who know something like sit by and offer me great advice and support. Since that's really been good for schools. So I'm really lucky that.
Looking ahead, what are, other than your book and acknowledgements and everything else, I know your plate is full, but is there something else that you're excited about pursuing or hoping to, or something else that you may be working on behind closed curtains? I know you have a lot on your plate.
Honestly, I have not. I just want to get this book out of the world, and hopefully people will enjoy it and get something out of it. And I'm just looking forward to the tour and show all over.
And I'm so excited we get to be the first ones to have you on.
Oh, no, you're the very first to be on the book, so thank you again for having me.
Yeah, same here. I'm so grateful. I think, stars came, everything happened for a reason. We showed up on Google. I just happened to punch in the right words, and you said that I was very much. Well, thank you so much, Minelle. Before we let you go, I love asking everyone who comes on the show if there's a particular place in the city they like going to for inspiration, whether it's a trail or a cafe or a gallery, just to disconnect from your world that you'd like to share with our audience.
I mean, we're on like one of my favorite streets in the city, place to live just around here, and we're so close to kids' books, which whole discussion was in my area because my son used to go to all the time.
This kind of pushed over the edge, but
I love going there to immerse myself in all the stories that are out there. So I have to say, give it a proximity to this books. It's a very special place for me. Sacred place.
I think moving away from downtown, I love downtown. And coming this part of the city, everything calms down. You know, your streets are a little quieter, there's no trees, the air smells a little bit different, not as much chaos. So one of these days I'll be moving to this part of the city.
Inshallah.
Inshallah,
Yeah.
inshallah, that will happen. Well, thank you so much for joining us, for accommodating to our schedule. I truly appreciate it. Is there anything else that I missed today that you would like to share with our audience before you go?
No, I hope people will buy the book.
My pleasure. And we will make sure that we share Minelle's website with you so you can they purchase it from the website? It will be available. Okay, wonderful. It's available for pre-order. Amazing. And it will be out on October 1st.
Yeah, so.
Great. Signed book with the author. Bravo, I'll be lighting up. Thank you. You'll have to invite us. Make sure it's in my calendar. Okay. Minelle, Mahtani, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you all for tuning in. Until next time, I'm your host, Lara Ronnie. This show is produced with the support of TELUS Storyhive, and we're filming here today in the heart of